Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. So this is meant to be a no notes presentation, but I'm going to talk about creativity, how we actually injected the word creativity back into our name at Banff Centre, and some of what led to that and the reasons why. So I will, there we go. Let's start with that first slide, and then I'll control them from there. But I was going to open with a Cambridge dictionary definition of the word creativity. So of course, I don't want to get that wrong. So you don't want to get Cambridge wrong. So I'm going to quote it. And partly because I think, if anything, creativity has become a very overused word in our new culture. Overused both in our field of arts and culture in some ways, although we can lay appropriate claim to it, but also in industry increasingly, and it does have a connection, of course, with innovation. So let's assume we can all embrace this definition of creativity this morning. The ability to produce original and unusual ideas or to make something new or imaginative. So I looked at a lot of different definitions. One of the reasons I chose Cambridge is it was quite succinct because, believe me, if you look it up, it goes, some of them go on and on and on. So this morning, as I said, I want to share some lessons learned on our road since I arrived in Banff over 20 months ago to a new embrace of creativity at Banff Centre, what it means for our future. So I'm going to share 5 lessons learned. One is to understand the current environment of your organization. 2, bring in the best help you can find. Okay. 3, bring your team, and for most of us working in the field, we do your board. Bring your team and your board along. 4, focus and do the work required to have a good outcome, and then execute, execute, execute. So with that, those are the lessons. So now I can throw this away dramatically. And the first one I said was understand your current environment. So when you're the president and CEO of Banff Centre, environment means environment. And you can see that here. Understanding the environment, for me, arriving, as you heard, from New York City, Lincoln Center, Toronto. I did also work at Stratford for 5 years, which was a smaller community, but that's a big change to move to Banff, a town of 9,000 people. So understanding the environment meant acknowledging and saying, we have an 83-year history. This center, which was founded as the Banff School of Fine Arts, is over 83 years old. It was founded during the Depression in 1933. So don't let anyone tell you the current economic environment means you can't do something. Banff was founded in 1933, the center, not the town. We are living and working on Treaty 7 land, which we acknowledge, home of the Blackfoot, Stoney Nakoda, and Tsuut'ina nations. We are a tenant, I think I pay them $1 a year, of Parks Canada, living and working in Canada's first national park and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We welcome over 4,000 artists and leaders because we have a significant leadership conference division as well each year at Banff. We produce over 400 events, 50 plus of which are commissions or co-commissions. And we have a 42-acre campus and a $62 million annual budget. So I arrived to lead a fairly complex organization, for those of you who know it. And now, next slide. There we go. Oh no, that went way too far. Oh boy. Okay, technology fails us once again. We're talking about innovation. There should be a picture there. Let's try slide number 2. Because it gives you a better bird's eye view of our campus. It should be slide number 2. It looks like we're on 7 right now. Slide number 2 shows you a bird's eye view of our 42-acre campus. And when I arrived, one of the things I had said to the board when they asked me if I'd be interested in taking on this position, I said, all those wonderful stats I just quoted to you, oh, I do have power. And there we are. And my house is right here. I'm very, very lucky. I live right there on the campus. And so When I arrived, I said, I just quoted all those wonderful stats. Many of you, your companies or you personally as an artist or a manager, have been on the Banff Centre campus. This global reputation and the work that's created that travels around the world, that the Banff Centre brand had become quite blurry. Yes, we're a conference center. That may be what people think of when they think of Banff. Yes, we're a place of creation. Yes, we have studios where artists can go and do work and not be disturbed, and then that work goes out in the world stage, or sometimes it's just to take risks. But Banff had kind of lost its understanding on the international stage, and it was important to me to say, wow, we're doing amazing work here. We need to bring people along and elevate again the Banff brand. So the name of the center when I started there in March of 2015 was the Banff Center, having been called the Banff School of Fine Arts, Banff Center for Continuing Education, Banff School of Management. Our legal designation in Alberta is a post-secondary institution, a non-degree granting home, as we now say, home, Canada's home for arts training and creation. So how do we take that brand, reintroduce it to the world? So I told you number 2 of lessons learned that I was going to share with you from going through this incredible branding and strategic planning process over the last year was bring in the best help you can find. So at Banff Centre, and let me see if this is going to begin to give you a sense of this. So we were called the Banff Centre. Okay, Banff's a town of 9,000 people that welcomes 4 million visitors a year. So everything has the word Banff in it. And when I arrived, I said, the Banff Centre, what's that? Is that where I go get a flu shot? Is that where I get my driver's license? What is the Banff Centre? And I thought we needed a more distinctive name. I said, bring in the best in the world. We engaged Pentagram out of New York City. They're the people who did the BAM logo, MoMA, Met Museum, Citibank, Saks Fifth Avenue, Hillary Clinton's logo for her campaign. They're not going to take the fall for that one. It was a great logo. So we engaged Pentagram. I had worked with them before, and we engaged a firm that some of you may know, Adrian Ellis, also out of New York City. And together, we looked at strategic planning and rebranding. So if you're going to talk about mission, vision, what do you stand for, what is the focus of your organization going to be, you need to talk about those two things together. This became the beautiful, wonderful result, and one example of it, we did a big branding party after this logo had been completed and approved, and we were ready to launch. And that's, you know, don't be fooled by the fact, you know, who here hasn't gone through a strategic planning or a rebranding process? That's easier than saying who has. You know it can be extremely painful and difficult. But we brought these great experts together. We spent a lot of time together in rooms. We spent a lot of time together over bottles of wine in order to do the hard work required to come to the right conclusion. And it took a long time for the senior staff and the entire team to actually understand and embrace that putting arts and creativity back in the name of Banff Centre was still going to serve all of our staff and was going to actually serve the organization better, to go out there, own, and focus on that name. So we rebranded and had a big launch party in June and gave away T-shirts and lots of swag and got incredible embrace from our team on this beautiful new logo. The A kind of looks like a mountain, maybe looks like a TP, maybe stands for arts, maybe stands for Alberta, whatever you want it to stand for, but I think it's great and fresh and modern. And then number 3 that I talked about that I would share today of lessons learned was bringing your team and your board along. The process took over a year, so I arrived in March. We really began by April, May with engaging the 2 firms and really buckled down to work in the summer and worked right through the entire year. The new strategic plan was adopted by the board in June of this year, so it was really a full year of work. We created an ad hoc strategic planning committee of our board. We only have a 16-person board. This is one of our very well-known programmatic brands, Banff Mountain Film. It tours around the world. We created working groups that included members of the staff, cross-functional teams. So if you had a working group on IT or on artistic programming, it had members from every different department within the organization to have conversations about how we needed to create a new strategic plan in those areas. They reported back to the senior staff team regularly. They really felt their voice was being heard. We gave regular updates to the full staff. Not everyone was assigned to a working group on the progress of the plan. We unrolled the brand with great fanfare and made it fun for everyone. So that's a very, very important lesson learned. Bring your team and your board along. Then I said number 4, which maybe should have flipped with that, which was, it really does take the focus and the work. Tears were shed. Wrongs were aired. Differences of opinion were voiced. And you have to allow that to happen. We did end up getting to the right place, but it wasn't always easy. And the reason I referenced focus is sometimes you have to let things, most of us probably in this room work for very mission-driven organizations. We want to be everything to everyone. You've got to do the hard work and bring the vigilance to your exercise, to your process of saying, what really are the things we're going to focus on? What do we need to cut away and not do any longer, or maybe do down the road? We were looking at a 5-year, very focused plan for Banff Center. And the process was good. It brought the entire team closer by the end, but we really did have to focus and do some hard work. And then finally is execute, execute, execute. So I said to the teams, I'm not going to create a brand police department, but don't make me do it. We've done a lot of work. We've shared the plan. I went out, when I said bring the team along, I actually did 7 different 90-minute presentations of the strategic plan draft, the new brand, again, cross-functional teams, people could sign up. We went into different venues around the campus, and I made sure everyone understood. Here's the plan, here's the roadmap. Ask any questions. We need to do this together. I felt that gave me the agency to then say, you have to live by this plan. You have to use this brand in this way. You have to make sure that we're applying the Banff Center brand more clearly and more uniformly, because that was one of the reasons we'd lost clarity in the minds of so many of our constituencies about who we are and what we do. So execute, execute, execute. That's an example of our outdoor amphitheater using the brand. We did a big launch concert, made it free for our community. And the other thing, living and working where we do, beyond even the stakeholders I talked about being our staff and our board, was our community. We are the 3rd largest employer in the Bow Valley area. I hope many of you have been to Banff Center. If not, consider this an invitation. It's an extraordinary, wonderful place. But we really do have a lot of stakeholders. Parks Canada, our small community that welcomes so many people. So we really threw it open to the public, and we celebrated this new creative brand and executed, as you can see there. And so what has resulted in an amazing focus and being able to make fantastic programmatic announcements going forward, a stronger recommitment to our reputation for classical music, for summer festivals, for all the wonderful work we do at Banff. And I think a relief and a freedom to the team to say, oh, okay, there are pressures out there in the world asking me to do everything, to be everything for everyone, but now I have permission to focus very clearly on this plan. I'm going to, if you can just throw me that booklet there on my chair. So when I say execute, 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 many of you, because you're on our list of arts partners and people we've worked with in the past and artists, so this culminated in this facing version of our strategic plan, which we dubbed the Creative Voice, and it has 6 clear goals and objectives. It was a lot of work to get there, but what I said to the team is this now doesn't get put on a shelf somewhere. We're living by this plan. It's a roadmap for the future. Everyone's very excited about it. And another thing it culminated in was this little video, this little commercial that is now airing on a lot of stations across Canada. And I'm going to leave you with that and move on to our next speaker. Thank you.